Climate change activists who've been causing chaos on motorways in and around the capital over recent weeks clashed with motorists today as they turned their attention to some of London's busiest commuter routes. In defiance of the government attempts to stop them, they blocked the Blackwall Tunnel and Wandsworth Bridge. Well, police arrested dozens of protesters, as Tom Edwards reports.
She's in the ambulance. She's going to the hospital in Canterbury. Do you think I'm stupid?
At the Blackwall Tunnel, this driver is trying to get through a line of protesters. She says she's trying to reach her mother, who's on her way to hospital.
How can you be so selfish?
For 3 weeks, Insulate Britain have been targeting London's roads and motorways. The tactic: lie down on the tarmac or glue themselves to it. This morning, there were protests at 4 busy locations.
This is my 7th arrest. I do not want to be here anymore. Why am I here? Because we're not getting a statement from our government that we've asked for over 2 months. Please listen to us.
This was Hanger Lane gyratory. There, Malik was caught up in the disruption. He's a dentist and had to cancel appointments. Do you have any sympathy with Insulate Britain?
No, not at all. So I'm all for protecting the planet, reducing our carbon footprint, but it's just caused such a huge amount of inconvenience. And it's, I mean, just driving past, if you see a row of cars, and I'm sure in those cars you'll have NHS workers trying to get to hospitals, emergency doctors, but it seems that they have no consideration for that, and they've just blocked everything off just to make a point. And the point is a valid point, but there must be a better way around it.
The group wants the government to commit to insulating the country's homes, which it claims are the least energy efficient in Europe. The government has tried injunctions to stop the protests, threatening prison sentences and fines, but that hasn't stopped them. Further legislation is now planned, which could for those involved mean months in jail or unlimited fines.
Minister, is it right that people should be pulling Insulate Britain protesters out of the road?
Well, I think we need to make sure our roads are running, don't you?
Drivers have started trying to remove the protesters themselves. At the moment, the authorities, though, continue to struggle to prevent the demonstrations. Tom Edwards, BBC London.
Well, Craig Scudder is a spokesperson for Insulate Britain. Craig, thanks so much for joining us. What are you trying to achieve here? Because you're not exactly winning hearts and minds, are you, out there?
Well, I'd hope that you guys and the public are aware of what we're trying to achieve. You know, we've got to cut our CO2 emissions, and it's a legally binding issue for the government. And we've come up with a plan that is the cheapest way, pound for pound, to do this. It will get emissions down 15%, which is the equivalent of taking 15 million cars off the roads. You know, it will create 500,000 quality jobs all over the country, which will help Boris to level up. It will stop 95 people dying every day from fuel poverty, take 7 million people out of fuel poverty. You know, we want the government to commit to insulating all social housing by 2025, and then all houses by 2030. We have among the worst housing stock in Europe, and it's just inexcusable that this hasn't been looked at decades ago.
But what you are doing really is obscuring that message, aren't you? Because in reality, what is being picked up on, what is making people talk, is the disruption you're causing not only to people's lives, livelihood, but also blocking people from getting to sick relatives, in some cases blocking the emergency services as well.
We understood when we were planning this that there would be issues with disrupting the public. And, you know, it's a real tough one for all the people involved in this, because we don't want to do that. But I think we thought that the press, we've got such quality press in this country, you know, the BBC being a shining light around the world. We kind of thought that after the initial, you know, why are you inconveniencing people, that the press would start asking themselves, why are we doing this? Why do we feel the need to do this? There are thousands of people who've given up their jobs, put careers on hold, put businesses on hold to come and sit in roads. Because, you know, as Sir David King said recently, the next 3 or 4 years are crucial to the future of humanity. But we just thought that we'd be asking, the deep underlying questions about government inaction, rather than, I have...
But Craig, the problem there, with all due respect, is that the media doesn't work like that, does it? Well, we're seeing pictures now of a woman who was desperate to get to her 81-year-old mother who was sick in an ambulance going to hospital. I mean, that's what the media will pick up on. And that's what I'm trying to explain to you, that a lot of people are saying, look, the way that you are going about this is obscuring what you are trying to achieve by creating a different news story in the news cycle. Do you think there's perhaps a different way to get your message across that isn't going to anger and disrupt so many people's lives?
If only. I wish there was. And I'd love for somebody to come up with a great suggestion, because, we have tried lobbying, we've tried micro-targeting political leaders, government departments. People have been doing this for 2, 3, 4, 5 decades without any success at all. And we know from history that disruptive direct actions work. The government are forcing our hand because they are not taking the biggest threat to humanity seriously. They come out with statements that are wishy-washy, and new policies like this 1.3 million grant for insulating your house, that will insulate one house out of every 500 in the country. I'm sorry, but that isn't a policy, that's a joke.
The London Ambulance Service have said that a delay to us reaching someone who needs our care can cost lives. If you had a sick relative who was dying in an ambulance trying to get through, would you cause the disruption that you've caused in the last few days, knowing that?
Well, we do have a policy that we let all blue light vehicles through.
But disruption will be caused. There'll be a huge traffic backlog. There'll be maybe an ambulance stuck, hundreds of metres behind the traffic jam. You can't let them through without letting loads of other cars through. What do? You've got a sick relative in that ambulance.
Are you going to let me answer the question? I was midway through answering the question and you jumped in.
Apologies.
Now, I don't mind the interview, I'll go. But if you ask me a question, let me answer it. Our blue light services are extremely professional and they fight through traffic jams day in, day out. Whenever a blue light vehicle comes anywhere near our protesters, we let them through. That's been done day in, day out, hour in, hour out throughout our protests, and will continue to be done.
OK. Craig, thank you very much. Take care. Craig Scudder there from Insulate Britain.